Hi all, in this video we're going to be looking at the Technical Graphics Ordinary Level 2019 question 3. This is the development question, and this year it was of the Child's Ball pond. So this is a typical question that comes up pretty much every year, okay? So let's get started. So we can see here from the question, folks, we're asked, part A is to draw an elevation in the direction of arrow A, okay, so looking at the side of it, and then we're asked to project a plan down from the elevation. So we should know from our orthographic, we're going to be drawing our elevation up here. Our plan is directly underneath our elevation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm drawing a light line across up here towards the top of the page. Okay, don't need that much space. All I need is space to draw my elevation, which again, if we look at the question, the overall height of this is going to be a height of 35, the 25 and the 10. So I'm going to mark up here then 35, and that's going to be my height up here. Okay, so it's the height dealt with. Next thing to do is deal with the width, so I'm going to just put an edge line here. Okay, and again, if we look closely to the question here, we can see that the width on the front looking in from RA is 55, but that only brings us a little bit of the way over. We have the circle then, which we can see is a radius 40. So the 55 plus 40 gives us an overall width of 95. So I'm going to mark off that. That's my overall width there of 95. And again, I'm drawing a light line all the way down. Why? Because remember our rule, whatever width it is in elevation, it's going to be the same width in plan. So that there is my box for my elevation complete. Okay, so we know the elevation is going to fit in there. I'm going to go ahead now and set up the plan. Again, just like we would have done in our orthographic. So I'm going to leave about a 20 or 30 mil gap between the elevation and the plan. And now again, if we look at the question here, we can see in the question that the depth, okay, look at the top from the back to the front, is a depth of 80. So I'm going to measure down my depth of 80 here. And again, I'm drawing this slightly across. And that there then, space I have is the space that my plan will fit into. So now that I've got my space for my elevation and plan, I can go ahead and start drawing in the details. Again, if we look at the question here, we can see the two different height measurements of this development is a 10 and a 25. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in. So I'm going to come up 10 and I'll be left with 25 then. So I'm going to draw a light line across, okay, because they're the two heights. And again, the next thing to do is put in the width here. So again, if we look at the question, we can see that the width was 55 and then the radius 40. So I'm going to mark off those. So from right to left, I'm going to measure in 55. And again, I'm drawing a light line all the way down. Why? Because whatever width it is in elevation, it's the same width in plan. Once you've that done, you've got all the information and details needed to draw the elevation of this piece. So I'm going to start that. So we can see on the right hand side, it's where the sloped edge is. I come up 10, okay, and I've got an angle on it then, okay. We're going all the way up to the top of this ball pit, which is 35 mil high, which is up the extra 25. So that brings up the whole total edge there. And again, if we look across the bottom here then, it's a straight edge. Obviously, we've got the whole edge along the bottom. And again, once you've that done, what we have to deal with is this top of the ball pit, which is the radius 40. Now again, we should remember from our orthographic, when we've got a cylinder, when we look into it on plan, at the top of the cylinder it will appear as a circle, but what does it look like when we look in at the side or the front of the cylinder? It appears as a rectangle. So while it's going to appear as a circle in plan, it will simply just appear as a rectangle up here. Okay, so I'm drawing that across heavy and down heavy here. So at that stage, that's your elevation complete. Our next job is to move into our plan. Now the plan is fairly straightforward. We've got the outside here, okay, so I can go ahead and draw that in. So it's 55, okay, the outside here. Then we've got the front, which is 80 down, and we've got this side over here, which again is 55. Okay, and we can see that matches up perfectly to what we have in elevation. That's why our plan is directly underneath our elevation. Now again, if we look at the question, we've got a back curved edge that tells us it's radius 40. That is just in line, the center of that radius 40 is just in line with the 55mm measurement. So in our question, we know that this back part is the curve. We can see the center is going to be on this edge of the 55mm line. If the full diameter is 80, then the radius here would have to be 40, okay? So I'm going to mark off 40 in the center of this line, and that's giving me the center point here to draw in this circle. So to draw in the circle, we're going to put the point of the compass right down the center, open it up to the edge, make sure we've got the correct radius of radius 40, and we're going to draw this arc neatly all the way around. Okay. And once we've that done, that is the plan of our question fully complete. So that is part A and B of the question, the elevation and the plan fully done. Our next job is to go ahead and draw in the development. So to do the development, we're going to be doing what we call a ribbon development. So again, we can see from the question here that there's the outside edge that's flowing all the way around this base. So we've got a base here and we've got all these sides. We've the front, we've the side, we've this curved back and this other side. So what we're going to do is just try and unwrap that all the way around. Just like if we take our masking tape here, we've got a circle and we know we've got all these tape along the sides, and all I want to do is unwrap it. We can see the thickness of it here. If we looked in right at the front of the masking tape, we have the height of it. In plan, we have the diameter, and all we're going to be doing is doing a ribbon development. So all I'm doing is I'm peeling around this masking tape from the side. So what does that look like when I do a development? Well, all I'm going to do is take this height, step it off, and I'm peeling that all the way along. Okay, and I'm left with this ribbon. My plan is going to be attached, or my base is going to be attached to the ribbon. So then I can take it and literally just wrap it back up again. Okay, so the height is important, and then how far round it needs to go is important. So when we look at our question, well, we have the height from elevation and we have how far it's going to go around here from our plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by marking off a ribbon here. So I'm going to basically make sure I have enough space. I'm going to come up from the bottom of the page, maybe about 90mm there should be fine, and I'm going to use that to start my ribbon. So it's just like in an exam, folks, you're going to have more space to make sure that you've got to fit in. So it's just to make sure it fits in. Now, what is the overall height of my ribbon from my elevation? Well, I know it's 35, so I'm going to mark off that at 35 here, and I'm drawing another light line all the way across. So that there is the ribbon for my development. What I now need to do is I need to go ahead and start labeling all the different parts. So I'm going to start down here. I'm going to call this point 1 up to point 2, 3, all the way around the curve to 4 and back into 1. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my point 1 off right over here at the very edge. Okay. So I'm going to call this point here point 1. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to just step off all these distances all the way around. So if we look, we're going to start at 1 and I'm going to mark off from 1 to 2. If you've got your compass, just the neatest, most accurate way, take your distances on that. Otherwise, you can just measure them with your set square. So I'm opening up, pointing the compass on point 1, opening it all the way up to point 2, and I'm taking that distance, I'm not changing the compass, and I'm putting point 1, or putting the point that comes down and back down on point 1 as it was here, and I'm marking off what is my next one, my point 2, and straight away I'm going to mark that off as point 2. I'm going to do the exact same thing again. I'm now at point 2, point the compass at point 2, open it up to the next one I see is point 3. Okay, so I'm stepping up to that distance, take 2 to 3, don't change the distance in the compass, put point of the compass right back down to the point it was at point 2, so it goes back down to point 2, and I mark off a little edge there, and it's straight away again, I'm going labeling that's point 3. Now the next one is from 3 to 4, but I've got this curve around me. Now if I take the distance from 3 to 4, my compass, okay, that's from one point to the next, but that's not equal to this full curve. Again, if we take our masking tape, that'd be just like me taking half this masking tape. So if I were to take the distance of half the masking tape and I measure that there, that is what's that? Roughly 11.5, okay, centimeters. So 115 mil. So I would be saying, right, well, that's how much masking tape I need to wrap around that, okay? But if we were to take our masking tape, okay, so half of that, we said it was 11.5. So if I start right here at the top and I unravel this around, all the way around here to, from the top, okay, to the bottom. So we just mark that. So from the top here all the way around to the bottom, which again, just to show you, we've shown you it's 11.5. And I take all that, okay, and I stop and I just tear this bit off here. I would be saying that this here then should be equal to 11.5. But again, if we measure that, we can see it's way more than 11.5. It's 18.5. We thought it was 11.5, which again, look, we just measured. So we can see that obviously the circumference is way longer than just the diameter. So we need to try and figure out a way that we can find this distance a little bit easier and neater. So how do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to split this arc up into smaller segments. To do that, we're going to use our 30-60 degree set square. So I'm going to draw from the center out at 30-60 degree angles, okay? And this is going to give me neater, smaller segments that we can take and step off. So I'm going to just mark all those all the way around. Okay, so there they are using my 30-60, and don't forget we've got the very start and end as well. So I need to go from 3 around to 4, but I know I've all these other parts to go through. I have to go to A, B, C, D, E, and back into 4. So that's what I must do before I get to 4. So let's take those distances again on our compass. So point the compass on 3, open it up to A, okay? Keep the distance the same, put the point of the compass back on the number we started at, which was at 3, and mark off. And that is now point A. So go back, point the compass on A, open up to B, at A, mark off B. And what we should be noticing here is that all these distances from B to C is the exact same as A to B, is the exact same as 3 to A, is the exact same as C to D. And why is that? Because all of these are 30 degrees. They're all equal spaces. Okay? So because we know that, we can keep this distance on our compass the exact same, and we just step it off the amount of times we need. Well, there's B to C. Okay? What's next? C to D. So that's the idea of splitting it up into 30-60 degrees, because you've now got equal areas. D to E, and E back into 4. So there's E, and last but not least, we're back here now to point 4. Okay? What's the last distance we need to take? The same as 3 to 2, we got to go 1 to 4. So, or sorry, 4 to 1. So point the compass on the point I want to go to start at. Open up to where you're going to is point 1. Points the compass back down to the point we wanted, which was 4. Open it up to 1. Mark off 1. That there is point 1. So we finish exactly where we started. That's important. Now, once you've that done, then we can start looking at our ribbon itself. Now, we marked off the overall height of the ribbon, which was 35, but are all these edges going up the full height? No. We can see here that this front panel, okay, my 1 to 2 panel, only comes up 10 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark off a 10 millimeter height, and I'm going to draw that height line all the way across. That's what we're going to need. So now I've got the height of the front panel, and I've got the height of the back, and I've all the heights I need. So at this stage I can go ahead and draw in my different panels. So I'm going to start off here at 1. So what height is 1? It's the front panel. It's only 10 high. And it goes all the way to 2, which is also 10 high. So there's the top of it. Okay. And here's the bottom. So you'll have noticed there on this point here, point 2, I haven't drawn a heavy line up when I was doing my question. Why is that? Because this is where the fold line is going to be. So we are folding around from 1 to 2. So you can see my 1 here is a heavy line. This is a dotted line because we're going to fold that. We're not cutting along that. So we're going to go then from 2 to 3. So here's my point 3. So I'm just drawing a light line all the way up here. So at what height is 3? Well, look, straight above it, this is my angle line. So I'm going to go from 2 all the way up here to the top, which is 25 high extra. Okay, so that's up here. And on this point 3 here, what are we doing there? We're folding. So we have a dotted edge down here. Okay, and we're going to actually connect the base onto here as well. So I'm going to do a dotted edge here as well. Okay, so that's that. Next is my curved edge here. So I'm going from 3 all the way around to 4. Okay, so what's that going to be? Well, it's going to be a straight heavy line all the way to 4. Okay. Am I going to be folding any of these lines? Well, I'm not actually folding anything. It's just a curve. So I don't need any dotted lines there. The only next dotted line is where I get to my 4, the end here. So I'm doing a dotted edge all the way up to the top. And again, we have a straight line along the top up here. Okay, there's my back. And again, we are back here to point 4. I now just need to do the other side, which again, we can see is the opposite to here. And it's coming down here at an angle to point 1. Point 1 is going to be a heavy line here. Why? Because that's the very edge. 1 is connected to 1. So that's where I would finish up. So I'm going to draw in my angle line here then, and I've got a solid base. Okay, so if we were just to go and label this then, we've got the front here. Okay, so that is the front. We've got the side. We've got the curve. And we've got the opposite side. So our development is nearly done. Our last thing to do is to do the base on it here. So we can redraw the base the exact same way as it is here. Okay, it's connected here from 3 to 2. So that's where I'm going to draw my edges. The exact same here, look, 3 to 2 in plan. We've got our edges straight down from that. So that's the first job. We're going to pop those in. Okay, and what is the distance from 2 down to 1 in plan? Well, we have it here in plan. We also have it here in our development. Remember, we took that distance from 1 to 2, 2 to 1. We stepped it out here. Okay, and if that front here panel has to connect the plan, then this edge and this edge have to match. Okay, so we'll just draw a wee little curve, small curve in there, just to show you that indeed, okay, this base here is the exact same as this distance here. Okay, the exact same as this side is connected to this side of the plan, and this side out here has to connect to this side 1 to 4 here, because remember, there is point 1. Okay, that's what we stepped off. That's point 1 there. That has to be point there. 1 over here. What's next? Well, look, there's my 3. What's opposite 3 in plan? My 4. This has to be my point 4, right beside point 1. So this edge has to match out to this edge. Okay. Next thing is the curve. How did we do the curve? Well, we came down the center between 3 and 4, and we marked off our 40, or radius 40 here. Okay. And after that, we have to take our compass, and we're going to put the point of the compass down at the center, and we're going to draw in our arc. So let's put the point of the compass down, open it up to radius 40, and we're going to draw in our arc all the way around. Again, you can draw that in heavy here. Okay. Once we've that done, we just got to tidy up this bit of the development here. So we're going to draw in our heavy edge here from 2 to 1, and from 1 over to 4 at the bottom. And again, just so that we know what part's what, we're going to just label this to be the base. So that there is part C of the question. That is the development of our child's play pond. So that is the Technical Graphics Ordinary Level 2019 question 3, our development question, which is based on the child's play pond. Hopefully this question helps you with your homework and your revision of this topic. Good luck.